Oh, hey guys. Welcome back to the channel. Um, Today we have a book that is if you clicked on the video, you already know, obviously, uh, very related to summer. Um, and what better way to do that than return to the lake, return to a beautiful sunset by the lake. So I've been playing pickleball all day for a work outing, and my legs are jelly. I walked all the way out here and actually walked the dog, scouting this location to see if it would work at this time, and it did. And so I walked all the way back, got my stuff, and had to grab the book that I'm talking about today, which is Dandelion Dandelion Wine. Say that 5 times fast. I don't have dandelion wine, but I have a cold beer, so oh yeah, it'll have to do. So forgive me for slurping, but I thought it would match the vibe well. It's a warm summer day in August, and this book is aptly titled, warmly titled as well, Dandelion Wine by Ray Bradbury. If you've read Bradbury, you know him probably from Fahrenheit 451 or The Martian Chronicles, some of his more famous science fiction tales. I put this on my list initially, my list of 25 books initially, because it has a very ominous cover. You probably can't see it very well from here, but look up the Bantam Pathfinder edition if you want to see the cover closer, and you'll get a good picture of it. But it looks ominous and sci-fi esque, and I assumed it was, so I threw it on the list. I didn't want to just read Fahrenheit 451. A goose is flying directly overhead. Please don't crap on my camera. Thank you, Mr. Goose. I hope the microphone picked him up. He's just by himself, just hanging out. I put it on here on this list because I didn't want to just put the classic Fahrenheit 451. I've already had like 1984 and Foundation and some other very like classic works, and I thought, let's try a different Bradbury. And I'm really glad that I did. This is I would call this much more magical realism than science fiction. It's really just like a peek inside of summer in the 1920s, 1930s, but with these elements of, I guess, just fantastic elements that are not really possible, but some of them, kind of are. I don't know. There's some wackiness to it, as you would expect from Bradbury. It's not just a warm summertime read. There are some fiction elements that make it more of it fits inside this list, well enough. But it is the most tame, I think, of the books, the most realistic of the books that I chose for this list, and it's one that I think I'm publishing this video in like late August, so it's not really summer anymore, unfortunately. But if you're interested in this book, I would maybe let it sit all through the rest of the next like 8 months or so, and then in May or June, pick this book up and try it out during that time, because it is a perfect encapsulation of nostalgic summertime as a child. It centers around 12-year-old Douglas Spalding and his family in this little town called, I believe, Greentown. And it's just these little vignette short stories that are interwoven and connected together. Not really in a linear plot, but they all kind of have different messages about nostalgia and summer and being a child, and being what it means to be a kid during summer break. As I was walking up the path here, I was looking at the ducks on the lake. There were butterflies flying. You can definitely hear the cicadas in the background, I'm sure. The goose flying overhead. And I tried to kind of put myself back into that headspace of being a kid just like Douglas in the book, where he's exploring kind of like he's 12 years old. So you remember that formative age of like you want to be grown up and you want to explore all these deeper things, things that start to kind of make their way into your mind as you get smarter and as you experience more. And then um, on the other side of 12 years old, when you're my age and you're still a young guy, but old enough to have a kid and to not be a child anymore. You're not quite as naive as kids can be. You start to realize how uh, being 12 years old during summertime is a special thing, and it just goes like that. It's not the only theme that's discussed in this book. I don't want to just like romanticize this one thing where it's just like Douglas is, it's all about being a kid in summer, but that's pretty much, I think, the way that Bradbury was trying to kind of the emotions he was trying to evoke when he was writing this book. It's based loosely off of him. I believe his middle name is Douglas, and his father's middle name is Spalding, which I thought was pretty cool. So Douglas Spalding, the main character, is kind of loosely tied to him. And Bradbury kind of, I think, said he wrote this with a little bit of his own childhood in mind. So it's like semi-autobiographical with the weird twists that he throws into books. Um, ooh, that's refreshing. Uh, and I think that it was one of those books where if you're in the right headspace, it's the right time of year, it really does just hit you in the feels and makes you it's a book that's meant to be like savored, I think, and not meant to be like analyzed and picked apart like a lot of the books I think that I've either read and reviewed on this channel or a lot of the books I'm interested in. So I find that I didn't really do a whole lot of research on my 25 books that I read for this challenge, other than I just kind of like found some authors that I wanted to read, kind of randomly sorted them, and just said, here, start reading. And I didn't read another book until I finished those 25. And this came at such a perfect time in the list where I had been I had just come off of reading Lord of Light by Roger Zelazny. I had Foundation waiting for me. I had, I think, a Stanislaw Lem waiting for me. I had read I read a Malzberg. Like, there was some heaviness to some of the books I had read. And I just was like, damn, like science fiction can be very heavy at times. And you can feel the weight of what's being written. Excuse me. And this book is such um, it was such a different flavor, but yet still kind of fit within the flow of what I was reading, that it was just perfectly a serendipitous list that was created for. It went in and out of hard sci-fi and into like this, like magical realism is what I would kind of call this. Um, Correct me if I'm wrong, or if you have a different definition, let me know. Uh, and you know, I don't know. I don't have a lot to speak on as far as the specifics of the book, other than that it made me like every single section had a different feel to it. Um, but they were all in that vein of just remembering what it was like to be a kid in summer. Getting out of the swimming pool and eating Doritos and a sandwich, or um, he talks about new shoes a lot, where you get your new shoes either for summer or for school or something. And it took me back to moments that I can remember as a child that you don't think about all that often when you get swept up into the everyday. Um, you just don't really consider those minute, um, little kind of snapshots in your head, unless you kind of either read them in a book or see them in a photo, because I don't know how memory works in our brains, but it. Uh, Watching my son do certain things at 2 years old, like I don't remember what I was doing at 2 years old, but um, it's you kind of relive your childhood through your kids to some degree, um, as you watch them grow older, and that's a beautiful thing. But very rarely are you taken back to the moments as a kid. And I didn't grow up in 1928 when this book was set, so it's different. But I watched The Sandlot as a kid. It's one of my favorite movies. really ever. I love that movie. Um, and the way that that movie made me feel, like those kinds of things I think are so powerful, because I think a lot of people growing up nowadays miss the running around until it got dark out kind of childhood. That's not really a thing that's as common anymore with phones and video games and all the things that I think people who are kids, I'm not going to be that boomer who just is like nobody goes outside anymore, but this book does detail a different time period. And I think it was special to me in another way where like I grew up in the suburbs. I didn't grow up in a small town, but my dad was from a small town, and though he didn't grow up in 1928 either, it made me feel like I was kind of reading about my dad's childhood a little bit. Um, and I don't know why, like maybe my grandpa's childhood too, where it was just like they grew up on a lake as well, and it went out and just barefoot running around, going on the lake, fishing, doing things that I think I idealized as the small town life when I would go down there as a kid and be like, "This is the coolest place ever. Why don't we live here?" And if you live in a small town, you probably know, like, you know better than I do, that it's a different experience than I think those who visit and who see the fun things of it, see the fun sides of it, and then who can go back to a different way of living, perhaps. So I don't know. It was a special experience to read this book because another thing that happened was I recommended it to my mom. She had been kind of asking about some of the books I'd read, was interested in the channel that I told her I was going to start, and I was as soon as I finished this, I go, "Mom, you got to read this book. I think you'll really like it." Like, she's not into hard science fiction, so she wasn't going to read Lord of Light or Canticle for Leibowitz or something like that. That's not her style. But she checked this out from the library because she wanted a bigger copy. My little bantam with the tiny print. You're not gonna be able to see it from there, but the tiny print like this, she wouldn't have been able to read it very easily. So she checked out a big, large print from the library and sped through it and just was like blown away by it. I talked to her about a scene in it that resonated with me, that she said resonated with her as well, where um, the one that resonated with me that I remembered was the older man who gets phone calls from, I think, it's like in Brazil or something, and across the world. And he's taken back, he's an old man who's like in poor health, if I remember right. He's taken back to another time through these phone calls, and it's a really sad section of the book it made me cry. Excuse me. Um, but I found that really powerful because the kids, Douglas and his friends, like, I think they go visit him and they call him the time machine because he'll tell stories and take them back to another time. And it encapsulated what I think Bradbury was doing for me, by transporting me into a different time. The story that resonated with my mom was, if I remember correctly, the woman who talks to the little girls, and the little girls are like, they're, oh, what was it? Somebody's gonna have to remind me in the comments because I can't go find it off the top of my head. And I don't remember what section it is, but it's older-ish woman who's talking to the little girls about, like, and she gives them her like dresses and things at the end of that little section, and it is a beautiful little lesson for the kids, and trip down memory lane for the woman. And yeah, this book doesn't have, like, it doesn't have your typical um, climax and rising action and tension and characters and plot that other books might have. There's really, like, there's sections in it that are short stories that follow a little bit of like that kind of that follow that, but a lot of it is just, like I said, you just savor it. You kind of read through it relatively quickly because it's an easy read, and Bradbury's prose are so buttery sweet that it's not hard to read through. Um, like, I know some people have claimed that this book has kind of like too much flowery language to it, but I think that the prose are perfect. I think that Bradbury is he's at his best in this book. And I've read for it Fahrenheit 451, and I enjoy it for what it is. But this book has a whole other way of kind of reaching inside of you and really connecting with you. So I know I didn't really talk too much about like the specifics and plot points and whatnot, but yeah, this book has a special place in my heart, and I feel uh, like it's one of those books that if you're a reader of any kind, you just like literature, I think this is worth your time. I'll just read you the back so that you can kind of get just get a little taste of what it says. Ray Bradbury's Dandelion wine. Uncork it slowly and inhale the heady aroma. Take a small sip. Suddenly you will find yourself transported into the strange and wonderful world of a most extraordinary 12-year-old boy named Douglas Spaulding. A world where miracles are just everyday occurrences, and even the most ordinary things are pervaded by eerie glimmerings of supernatural and the unknown. It sells it to be like almost like an eerie horror, and that is not what this book is, in my opinion. There's nothing about it that is eerie or supernatural is like a stretch to me. I just very much the memories that I have of this book are it's this, it's summertime, it's the cicadas and the grasshoppers, and uh, like I said, going swimming in the lake and eating Doritos and a sandwich on the dock. That's what it made me feel, and I adore this book. I don't even hardly want to grade it because it's just a beautiful piece of fiction that I think is just a really fun book that I'll probably read pretty much every summer. And I can't wait to read this to my son when he's old enough, or at least recommend it to him. So yeah, that's kind of all I have. I feel like this video went on for a while, but I hope that you enjoyed the lone goose that flew overhead, the lake, the sunset, uh, my cracking of the beer, of course, and the just the thoughts on Ray Bradbury. Dandelion Wine's a great book. Go read it. I don't think it's perfect per se, but it's like a 9 out of 10 for me. Wonderful, wonderful book. For those of you that care what's coming up on the channel, I've been reading like a madman. I finished another Elric book before the end of August. That review will be out soon. Me and Luke, my good buddy who's been on the channel several times, finished The Godfather. So be on the lookout for that. We're going to do kind of a dual review for that. I don't know when that's coming because he lives a couple hours away, and we're going to try to do that live together. But The Godfather, Elric, I just finished. What else did I finish? Well, we also, he and I read The World Inside. We haven't done our review video for that either, by Robert Silverberg. So those three are about ready to make the channel at some point. And then I'm in the middle of and almost finished with Tanith Lee's Electric Forest, which will be a fun one because I know a lot of you that have watched the channel are either familiar with Tanith Lee or maybe have read Electric Forest. So fun stuff on the horizon. Yeah, I appreciate you guys as always watching. This is so much fun that I get to continue to do this, and you guys are engaged and have fun with me. So thank you for watching. Appreciate you guys. Dandelion Wine. Give it a read. I'll see you in the next video.